Hello, I'm Denton Davidson, senior editor for Gold Derby, here with Marcos Siega, director of Dexter New Blood on Showtime. Marcos, Dexter was a classic standalone series on its own. Critics loved it. It was a force at the Emmy Awards through that original run. What made you decide to come back for this reprisal and direct 6 of the 10 episodes? And was there fear or pressure in doing so?
There were all of those things. What made me do it was Clyde Phillip and Michael C. Hall wanting to do it. They really cared about the show, and they wouldn't have come back if they didn't feel strongly. So when Clyde called me, I jumped at the opportunity, and Michael really wanted me there to do it with him. They asked me originally to do all 10, but we couldn't schedule it that way because I'd need a break in the middle to prep half, and we had an air date at the time. So I brought in somebody who I really trusted, Sandy Bookstaver, and we just kind of approached it as one big movie. So I was anxious, nervous, excited, all of the above, and that's really kind of what drove me to want to do it.
When you're working with multiple directors like that, do you sort of have say over certain things, or how do you make sure everything sort of flows seamlessly together?
On any show, the pilot director. So when in this situation, I was asked to, I pitched an idea of what I wanted the show to look and feel like before we shot anything. So I set what the look would be for the 10 episodes and the style that we would shoot it. And when I asked Sandy to do it, it was partly because he's done this before. He's been a producer director on shows where he has to make sure that every episodic director that comes in helps to maintain the same look and tone. So he has the experience of running that way. We know each other well, and he really loved the look that we were going for. So it's a collaboration in the end, but it starts with a point of view.
And the series takes place in Iron Lake, New York. It's a fictional town. It's a nice little town, though. But there's snow, interesting weather, climate. It takes place over Christmas. I'm curious where this was filmed at and what sort of challenges you had throughout the shooting process.
The biggest challenge was scheduling a 120-day shoot, 10 episodes with actor availability, locations. So if you're at the cabin in episode 1 and you know you're going to be there, through episode 8, and then you're going to burn it down, you need to plan that. So all of that stuff gets shot in a chunk, and then you take a break so we can then burn it down and then come back and put up the ashes, and all that's art directed. So scheduling was one of the biggest challenges. Scheduling through the winter when weather is very unpredictable. I've said this in an interview before. I think everyone says, when they talk about their last job, how great it was. And this was easily the best experience of my career in terms of the team, the people, the size of the project, and how easily it came together. You asked where we shot. We were based in central Massachusetts, and we had locations all over central and western Massachusetts. The town itself is a little town called Shelburne Falls, and we went there for 2 weeks. We shut it down. The town was fantastic. The local government was fantastic. They let us do things. That bridge that you see is it's the only way through town. And we were allowed to shut it down and control it as a little. They were really friendly in terms of production, so made it easy.
And what was it like working with Michael C. Hall again and seeing him reprise this role? He's such a master of Dexter. So what's it like seeing him again and getting people back on his table?
It was exciting, and I know Michael outside of Dexter but there's always a part of me that uh, it almost feels like he can just turn it on and it seamlessly becomes Dexter, because obviously the real Michael and Dexter are very different types of people. But I see this like he literally becomes another person. And when I saw it for the first time doing it again, you kind of, it's a wonder. It's really fantastic to watch an actor just do that. He hasn't played this character in so long, but it's part of his DNA. That makes my job easy. You know, directing Michael is really about helping him in scenes. Let's keep track of where we are emotionally. What are the things that we want the audience to feel here? But there's never like the acting. So he's such an easy actor to work with, because he goes in with really solid ideas already. So it's just it's not even directing Michael, it's just adjusting.
And I love this sort of chess game between him and Clancy Brown, who plays Kurt Caldwell, the new killer in town. I spoke to Clancy, and he sort of joked that Kurt thought he was on Dexter's level, but he clearly was not. But Clancy's great in this. What was the vision for finding the right person for this role, and then sort of rolling him out in the season? Because we learned pretty early on that he's, you know, the new serial killer.
Yeah, it's that moment of casting is always such a big undertaking. If you just think about all the Dexter seasons and the iconic, you know, killers we had him go up against, that was always difficult. And this, I think, even more so, because we knew it would be the final season, and we knew that he needed a really worthy adversary, but somebody also who's likable. I don't remember the moment when somebody said Clancy's name, but I do remember all of us going, oh, of course. You know, it was just one of those things when it came to our attention. And then he hadn't seen the show, I don't believe, and then he binged it right before, but he loved what we had to say, and he was a great partner creatively. Sandy got to do some bigger scenes with him, which bummed me out, because the scenes with Harrison and when Dexter shows up and saves Harrison.
And then you mentioned Harrison. That final episode, the final scene of the final episode between Harrison and Dexter shocked audiences and how it ended. I think people sort of assumed things might go down a certain way, but we didn't expect Harrison to be the cause of all of it. We know there's no moving on for Dexter at this point. Could you see a future for Harrison somewhere down the line, perhaps?
Yes, yeah, I could. I think anybody could if you watch the show, because there's a guy out there who's a lot like his father, and you know, sure, absolutely, there could be.
And when you look back at filming this entire season, you know, what was, you know, the best memory about getting this group back together, and what was the most challenging aspect of pulling everything together again?
The best memory was just I missed working with Clyde and Scott Reynolds, and it was just fun to take the 10 scripts and sit down together and work out the problems that we had logistically, story-wise, casting-wise, and fine-tune. It's something I would do for free. You know, I'm paid to do this, and it's my career, and I enjoy it so much. It's kind of a crime. You know, I get to do that thing that I would do for nothing. So I have incredibly fond memories of that, of those moments and experiences with those guys creatively. And then Michael, the moment that we did the first Kill Room, Michael and I walked onto the set privately together, and it was like, okay, here we are. Like this feels like what it's supposed to feel like. And that's sort of a surreal thing. It doesn't happen in TV that often, you know? It was like, I guess, like if you are on Gilligan's Island, going back to Gilligan's Island years later. But it was challenging logistically, being out in the elements. Those are the biggest challenges we faced, weather, dancing around schedules. We're out in the woods in minus 11-degree weather, you know, on a lake that has frozen 13 inches thick of ice, and you could drive a truck onto it. And we're going to be out there in the elements for 13, 14 hours a day. That was hard. But when you're doing something you love and you're doing it with good people, it was not nearly as hard as it should have been.
What clicked for you? When did you know this is the career path you wanted to take? I mean, I know you directed a lot of music videos. Was that sort of your big break, or was that your way into the industry, or what was your break in?
That was my break in. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to be, a filmmaker at a young age. You know, I probably 15, 16, I was like, this is what I want to do. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I'm from Queens, New York. You know, my parents are immigrants, and I was in a band, and the path of directing music videos just opened up in front of me because I couldn't afford to go to film school. And it was at a time when MTV was really starting to, I mean, it was pop culture, 1990, right? So MTV is the thing, and then it's just growing from there. And I'm in a band and I wanted to be a filmmaker. I just started shooting bands, and that got me noticed. And I went out to LA, and I made 3 movies, but my heart was always in television. When I first got there, I was a huge fan of The Sopranos. Doing television wasn't particularly sexy, but I loved that show. And I was like, how do I get to direct an episode of that? And I never did, but in trying to knock down those doors, I met a lot of people, and I got to know people in the TV business, TV side of things. A fellow music video director, Mick G, gave me my break in television because he had just done Charlie's Angels, and he was doing a show for Fox called Fastlane. And I called him up and said, I love the pilot, man. I want to direct some episodes. I'd never directed television. And just like he had never directed a movie and did Charlie's Angels, and then, you know, did the pilot for Fastlane, he was like, yeah, man, of course. 2 episodes of that pretty much got me this work. You just keep delivering. So that was kind of my way in. No film school. I worked for Nora Ephron in the early 90s. I learned a lot from her in terms of how the industry works. But I was always a guy who went out, picked up a camera, went out and shot stuff. And, you know, one thing I feel very lucky.
Could you have imagined back in, you know, 2000, the early 2000s, what would become of TV? I mean, the content, the amount of content, how good everything is. I feel like the Emmys could have 20 nominees in every category, and they would all be deserving. You know, what has it been like to just watch this evolution of television?
It's been, I mean, it's incredible because it's the thing I saw in The Sopranos when I wanted to do TV. I was like, you know, I go to movies. I love movies, and here's a show that feels like a movie to me every week, and I am in, and I can't wait to get back to it, you know, next week. And it just seemed very clear to me, like, that's a medium, that's a thing. I had no idea we'd be where we are now with the streamers, and, you know, I mean, it's turned our industry on its head, right? But as far as a medium, TV is, it would take a lot. It would take some sort of blockbuster offer to get me to leave TV to make a movie. And that's how much I love doing it. I love the immediacy of it. You know, I know that when I'm shooting right now, air in the fall, and you take it seriously as everyone should, and you want it to be great. You know, when things don't work, they don't work, but everyone sets out to make a great TV series, and that's exciting. It's energizing.
Well, Marcos, congratulations on Dexter New Blood. It gave fans so much joy to see him back, and of course, sadness at the end. But best of luck to you, the entire cast, and the crew at this year's Emmys. To our viewers, head over to Gold Derby, make your awards predictions, beat the experts, and check out more interviews with top contenders. And Marcus, such a pleasure discussing your work on Dexter New Blood.
Thank you, Denton. Thanks for having me.